Hey, it's Chuck, and this video is about a tool I made called Beatbox. I found a way to make Ableton voice activated without any coding or outside plugins. It turns your beatboxing into MIDI while you're using it. It can quantize your voice for you so you don't have to worry about fixing any timing. And my favorite part is sample chops. You can control the sample chop length just by humming. I was gonna give this to you like 2 weeks ago, back when it was version 1. It's on version 8 now, but it's become so fun I've been able to use it in real sessions. It's so crazy to pass the mic to a songwriter who has an idea. They don't know how to use Ableton, maybe they haven't programmed beats before, but now they can communicate the music directly to everyone else in the room with the real samples themselves. Even my 2 nephews were able to track MIDI so fast, they could just skip right to having fun. It's a classic rhythm. And then, check this out. So this was you. And I didn't tell them to do this next part. They're just tapped in.
We will rock you, rock you. We will rock you.
And then we played Roblox. The Beatbox is available on my Gumroad right now. For $10, you get the starting project file, the device itself, and some starting samples to help you explore all the possibilities. If you don't want to spend $10 right now, you're looking for a little free 99? I'm uploading a breakdown video so you can build the Beatbox step by step for free and learn how it works along the way. This will be easier for more experienced Ableton users, but I try to make it a fun watch for any level. If you're here because you already bought the Beatbox, thank you so much. I love making these devices for you. I got some more on the way. I've also been working on a lot of new music. You might hear something this month. So your support directly helps me do all of this. All right, you've waited long enough, so we're gonna start right now. I'm gonna show you how to use the Beatbox on the computer, and then at the end, I'll move over to the Push 2 to show you how fast this moves at a regular pace. There's a chance this thing works on the Push 3. I don't know yet. Okay, I checked last night. It does work on the Push 3, so if you own one or if you're thinking about getting one, they don't currently support third-party plugins and VSTs and stuff like that, which would make this the first voice to MIDI to work for standalone Ableton, including all the other devices I've been working on. Whenever I release them, they'll be stock, so they should work. All right, So when you download Beatbox, there's gonna be 3 ALP files, and then there'll be a samples folder. For these ALPs, as long as your Ableton has a higher version number, it'll be able to open any one of these, if not all 3. So just double click on it. It'll ask you where you want to install it. For me, I chose my desktop, and then boom, it's right there. If your loading screen ends up being stuck, it says like 98% or something like that, and it won't move, there's actually a good chance it did really install in the background. So as long as you can find this folder, you can double click on it, and inside is the ALS. The samples folder has stuff in it. You've installed this properly, and you're good to go. Before we get started, let's make sure all of our settings are the same. Open up Ableton's preferences and find the audio tab. Make sure to choose your microphone under audio input device, and then choose a buffer size of 128 or lower if your computer can handle it, but 128 works just fine for me. If you're using an audio interface, make sure to mute yourself on there too. Now head to the Record Warp Launch tab. Make sure count in is none, exclusive arm is off, default launch mode is trigger, launch quantization is 1 bar, and everything else in the launch section is on. Then head out of your preferences and go to edit, go down to record quantization, and turn on 16th notes. You can use Beatbox with quantize off, but for this tutorial, I'm going to keep it on because it's super helpful. And last but not least, let's turn on MIDI Overdub right here. This tool does work with arrangement view, but I've noticed the best results in session view. So I'm going to walk you through a complete cycle of setup and recording, and then do it again so you can see how natural the flow actually is. Beatbox will only start if this MIDI clip is running. So step 1 is to launch this clip and make sure Ableton's playing. To switch from the MIDI clip back to the device, just go down here to the lower right corner. Step 2 is to set Beatbox to the right mode. For now, we'll stay on mode 1, which is drum mode. Step 3 is to arm the tracks you want to use, so I'm going to click on kick, snare, hi-hat. They should all be red, and the beatboxing should already work. If not, skip here for troubleshooting, and then come back to this part of the video. Whenever you press play, it always takes about a second for it to wake up, so I suggest making each drum sound at least once to make sure that everything is responsive. For the kick, I like to make the letter P sound without the vowel. For the snare, I like to make a K sound without a vowel or even clicking my tongue. And then for the hi-hat, I like to put my teeth together and say the word it's without the I part. As you might have heard too, some of the drums are overlapping and sometimes they weren't responsive. That's what the input levels are for. So whenever you start this up, just adjust them every time. And then you can get it as responsive as you need. So after trying out a couple things, I found a rhythm that I like. To record that, I'm gonna tap this tempo up here while I'm beatboxing, and that'll help me set the metronome to my rhythm. To round it out, I'm just gonna make it 110. The next step is to make blank MIDI clips for us to record in. To do that, I'm going to use this gray circle called the session record, which is different from the regular record button. If you want to make this easier to use, hit Control or Command K on your keyboard to bring up the key mapping. Click on session record, and then I recommend tapping R on your keyboard. For this tempo, I want to make a 2-bar loop, so I'm going to listen out for 8 clicks on the metronome, since 4 clicks is 1 bar. On the first click, I'll press record. And then right before my second bar ends, I'll press it again to close the loop. Don't be afraid to press it a little early. If you wait too long, it might make a longer loop than you meant to. I have my metronome running, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, press, and it's done. Now we have 3 blank clips, and if I go to the clip length, you can see they're all 2 bars each. We made these empty MIDI clips first, so you don't have to worry about making a loop while you're beatboxing. It's already set for you. The last step is to record. Now this session record button works like an on and off switch. When it's off, I can practice my take, adjust levels, mess up as much as I want, and none of it will be added. If you try this and you hear the exact pattern you beatboxed, that's great, you did it. If it missed some of your notes or if you forgot to make some of the notes, you can always add drums to your beatbox loop without needing to restart. I want to add some more hi-hats to this pattern, so I'm going to turn down the kick and snare input and boost the hi-hats a little bit just to make sure that that's the only thing I'm recording and there's no mistakes. I'm going to hit play. And I'm not going to hit session record yet. I'm just going to practice my take. Something like that. So I'm going to hit session record right for that moment, hit record, and then I should be good. Now I can turn it off and listen back. That's exactly what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. And in session view, you can see that it's actually being recorded in. So you just practice your take, hit record, record it in, and you're good. To save the tempo of this rhythm, I'm going to go to the master, drag it to the left to reveal this menu, and then type in the BPM I have. Do this a couple times and you can switch between a bunch of different patterns and tempos using the same sounds. If you're using Beatbox in Live 10, just right-click on the same space and then choose Edit Launch Tempo. That's the whole cycle at a slow pace. I'm going to repeat the cycle for you again on the push, but before that, I want to talk about the 3 different modes. Mode 1 is for drum mode. This is where you can use all 3, the kick, snare, and hi-hat input, to control any 3 sounds you want. They can be drums, they can be chords with a little bit of release time, anything you want. Mode 2 is choke mode. This time we're only going to use the kick and hi-hat inputs, leaving out the snare. In this mode, 2 samples can cut each other off so they never overlap. The best example are closed and open hi-hats. If I head back to mode 1, you can hear that they're a little bit muddy, they don't really talk to each other. It doesn't have that snappiness, but then I go back to mode 2. This was the craziest upgrade to build because usually Ableton only lets you use the choke feature when 2 samples are inside the same drum rack. But with this, any 2 MIDI tracks across a project file can now use the choke feature. So basically, I don't go outside. My favorite mode is mode 3, which is slice mode. This one only uses the kick input, and this time, like you saw in the beginning of the video, we're gonna hum to control the length of a sample chop. The way it works is it's actually connecting to a sampler, which I have this guitar sample in right now. Instead of classic mode, I go to slice, make sure it's on gate instead of trigger, and then slice by manual. If I turn it on and hum, you'll see what happens. To add slices, which you can add up to 4 slices with this, you just double click somewhere. I'll head back to Beatbox. And I added this hum to slice feature. You'll see this knob moving right now. So let me start humming. I can add 2 more chops, so a total of 4. Let me just add those there. Head back to Beatbox and see what it sounds like. Just like that, I'm starting to just project my mind into the software and get the chops I was thinking about. This is fun with melodic stuff, but I love loading in a sample with 3 or 4 different types of percussion, which lets you start to think with texture. I'll show you right now. So I have this simpler right now, and the first one's a hi-hat. The second one is a shaker. And then the third one is some type of Foley. So I'm gonna load the beat back up and start recording. Just like that. This is unreal. I'm not excited to show you this because I'm hoping you'll replace or change the way you make music. I'm just really excited that we're learning to take the same tools that you and I have had on our computers for years, and we're able to express with them from a brand new angle and look at the way they talk to each other from a brand new angle. I'm really excited that all the shortcuts and controls I just showed you on there are tangible buttons on here, which makes the push to feel like a way more natural experience. had to skip to this part of the video for troubleshooting, it's not you, it's me. So I'm going to quickly show you how Beatbox listens to your voice and then how Beatbox communicates to the MIDI tracks so we can go through it together. Hopefully, if there's any problems, they'll be solved here. In this section, I'll also teach you how to set up your own MIDI tracks with Beatbox. You're not limited to the ones that I set up, and you can even bring this into your own project files, and with like 2 clicks, and it's perfect, you can take your MIDI tracks and have them talk to Beatbox. This audio track called Your Voice should be muted. It should be set to external in, and monitoring should be set to in. Back in the Beatbox device, click on this button called Show Hide Devices. Go to the Voice tab, and then open up this rack called Set Voice by double-clicking on it if it's not open already. Inside is the compressor. The sidechain should be yellow, the headphones blue, and the audio from this should be set to Your Voice, then pre-effects down here. The MIDI tracks with the sounds you want to use have a window called MIDI From. If you don't see this, click I/O on the far right of the screen. Every top window should be set to Beatbox. The bottom window looks like there's a million options, but I promise this is super easy to remember. The only 3 you should care about are kick post effects for controlling tracks with the kick beatbox, snare post effects for controlling tracks with the snare beatbox, and then hi-hat post effects for controlling sounds with the hi-hat beatbox. Everything else are just like the wires inside this thing, you'll never have to click on them. To show you how simple this is to set up, I'm going to delete all of these and set them back up. First, I'll make 3 MIDI tracks for mode 1. I'm going to highlight a track, double click on my sample, and repeat. For the sound I want to control my kick with, I choose Beatbox, then kick post effects. For the snare post effects. Then for the hi-hat post effects. Mode 2 is the same thing, except we're only going to be using the kick post effects and hi-hat post effects. For any MIDI tracks you want to work with the slicer in mode 3, set it to Beatbox kick post effects, then drag in a simpler, set the mode to slice mode, change it from trigger to gate, and then choose the slicing to manual instead of transient. And then those are all set. If you're ever in another project file, you can save this project on the side and drag the ALS in. Everything pops up routed and ready to go. As long as your project can handle running at 128 buffer size, you can comfortably use Beatbox. And here are some last troubleshoots and tips. In mode 1, make sure your drum samples have a short release time. If you use chords in mode 1, make sure they have a longer release time. However, they might overlap and bleed. Either make the release time shorter to help this, or turn the release time all the way up and use the start and end points to make a nice cut in your sample so it feels more controlled. For slice mode, try taking your own textures, vinyl samples, or sound design sessions and just line a couple of them up. Consolidate that as a file, and now you can chop between them. If you want to use Beatbox in arrangement view, just copy and paste that MIDI clip from session view, go to arrangement, paste it, and then hit that little orange button, and everything should be good to go. If you're going to loop an arrangement view, Either turn off arming on the tracks when you're done recording them, or duplicate your drums and make them super long. That way, the MIDI note at the top doesn't keep restarting on itself. Last but not least, if you keep this project file open and you come back to it and experience any lag, like double kicks and snares happening, or it seems super latent from your voice even though it's 128, just change the buffer size up to a higher number and then back down. And if that still doesn't work, I found success from just closing either Ableton as a whole or just switching project files and coming back. I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy using this thing as much as I had fun making it. Definitely look out for that video for the breakdown. Even if you bought the Beatbox, it could be a really cool way to learn how this works, explore it, and modify it for yourself. And please, if you do anything, make any beats, start ideas, I really want to see how you use this. So upload a video, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, I don't care. Just tag me. Once again, if you have any problems with this thing, reply below or email me. And yeah, that's it on my end. Peace.